welcome back to the Bytterfly Podcast. So I want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine you're basically the single best engineer on this massive 100-person project.
Right, you're the true expert.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're the one who routinely solves those impossible system-breaking bugs. You're staying up until 3 in the morning on a weekend just to save the major quarterly launch.
Yeah, you're carrying the team.
You really are. The system runs flawlessly, and it's all because of your architecture. But then, and here's the kicker, the annual promotion cycle rolls around, and you find out you've been entirely passed over.
Ouch. Yeah, that stings.
It's brutal. Instead, the promotion, the massive bonus, that fancy new leadership title, it all goes to a colleague who, spent half their year just writing internal blog posts and hosting these casual lunch and learns.
And your immediate reaction to that is just this profound sense of betrayal. I mean, you feel completely cheated by what looks like a broken system.
Because it makes no sense, right?
Yeah.
It makes absolutely no sense. You look at the code, you look at the raw mathematical reality of who actually contributed more to the system's stability, and it feels so unfair.
It really violates everything we are taught about professional growth, especially in those highly technical fields. There's this deeply ingrained expectation that it's all a pure meritocracy.
Right. The idea that the best work simply wins.
Exactly. You write elegant code, you design a flawless system, the project succeeds, and your career should just naturally ascend. We want things to be fair, We want to be categorized and rewarded based on objective, quantifiable output.
But today, we're doing a deep dive into the source material to show you why that system isn't actually broken at all.
Yeah.
You're simply playing the wrong game.
Yeah.
We are diving into the hidden architecture of professional visibility.
And we really have to start by dismantling that meritocracy myth, which the source material identifies as this massive structural illusion. It is an illusion. And if you're a listener who prides yourself on being the smartest person in the room, the true undeniable expert who fixes the impossible, you really need to hear this.
Listen up.
If you are invisible, your career growth is capped. I mean, hard capped.
Which requires a massive psychological paradigm shift, honestly. When your entire day is spent communicating with a compiler or a server cluster or a data pipeline, you are conditioned to believe that the objective truth of your work is all that matters.
Right. You build this beautiful, scalable backend, and you just think, look at this masterpiece. The code speaks for itself.
But the code never actually speaks for itself to the people who control your career trajectory, does it?
No, it never does. I mean, professionals in fields like software architecture, data science, IT infrastructure, they dialogue more with machines than with people.
Yeah, that's so true.
And machines are binary. They do not care about your personal brand. They don't care about office politics or who gets the credit. They only care if the logic compiles and the system executes.
But the people holding the budget strings, the executives deciding who leads the next multi-million-dollar initiative, they definitely do not read your code.
Exactly. They read signals.
So the implication here is that visibility isn't just vanity. It's not about being the loudest, most obnoxious person on the Zoom call.
Right. It's not about ego.
It's a strategic necessity. It's an entire layer of professional infrastructure that you have to build and maintain, just like you would maintain a database.
It's a deeply layered system of influence. It dictates your trajectory, your compensation, your opportunities, and ultimately your professional freedom.
Wow.
So we're moving from viewing visibility as this optional, somewhat distasteful soft skill to understanding it as a critical engineering project for your own life.
And our mission in this deep dive is to hand you the blueprints for that project. We're going to unpack the author's core framework, which they call the Euler Circles of Visibility.
It's a brilliant framework.
It really is. We're going to explore how your visibility footprint completely warps depending on the scale of your company. We're going to examine the very real, honestly terrifying dangers of platform risk in the modern digital age.
Oh yeah, that part is intense.
And we'll leave you with highly practical, actionable heuristics to strategically map out exactly where you should be investing your energy right now.
Let's start with the first major concept from our sources, the relativity of visibility. Because visibility is not an absolute static metric. It shifts completely depending on your environment.
The author presents a really fascinating perspective shift here. They compare the lived experience of working at a small company versus a massive multinational enterprise.
Right, so let's break down the psychology of that small company first. The author reflects on an experience working for a company of about 50 people.
Okay, 50 people. Pretty small.
In that environment, you possess this feeling of total market saturation. You know the CEO, they know you nod at the accounting team, the break room, you know the salespeople.
Right, everybody knows everybody.
Exactly. You feel incredibly, comprehensively visible.
It's like, well, the analogy is like broadcasting on a ham radio in a tiny village. Your signal just easily covers the entire town. You feel like a massive radio station because every single receiver in the vicinity is picking up your frequency.
That's a great way to put it.
But then you take that exact same transmitter, that exact same level of skill and output, and you drop it into a global enterprise.
And suddenly, the author notes, they might only be known within their specific business unit in Germany.
Oh, wow. Just one unit.
Yeah. And psychologically, this feels like a massive downgrade. You go from knowing the CEO to being just a nameless face in a corporate directory. You feel like an isolated island. Your brain is telling you that your visibility has drastically shrunk.
But the math tells a completely different story,
The
Ron.
math changes everything. That single business unit within the multinational enterprise actually contains significantly more people than the entirety of the small company from their past.
That's wild to think about.
It is. Being visible to just a fraction of that single multinational unit means you actually have far more eyes on you than the totality of the small company's workforce.
Right.
Your objective numerical reach has skyrocketed, even as your subjective feeling of visibility has completely plummeted.
The atmosphere just got infinitely larger. But this raises a really fascinating biological problem. Like, does the feeling of total visibility in a small company create this dangerous, false sense of security?
It absolutely does, and it's rooted in our evolutionary hardware. Human beings are wired to understand small, localized tribes.
Is this the Dunbar number thing?
Exactly, the Dunbar number. It suggests our brains can really only maintain stable social relationships with about 150 people.
Mhm.
But when you're in a 50-person company, your brain fires off signals saying, I am known by the entire tribe, I am safe from the predators, I am highly visible.
It feels comprehensive. It feels secure.
Right. But objectively, your reach is incredibly fragile. In the large enterprise, your brain feels anxious because you don't know the chief executives. But your actual objective visibility footprint, your potential network, is vastly larger and way more robust.
We're basically running Savannah hardware in a corporate matrix. We mistake the feeling of being known by a small group for the strategic power of being known at scale.
Perfectly said.
And this relativity doesn't just warp our perception of company size, it completely distorts how we operate on specific projects. So let's talk about the danger of scaling up.
Moving from the corporate level down to the project level introduces a terrifying trap for highly competent people. Let's say you start on a tight-knit project with a team of 10 people.
Okay.
In that environment, every single line of code you write, every architectural decision you argue for, every late-night troubleshooting session, it leaves a visible, undeniable trace.
There's nowhere to hide.
Exactly. But there's also nothing blocking the light. You are standing directly under the spotlight.
The cause and effect are perfectly linked there. I fix the bug, the team sees I fix the bug, the project manager thanks me. The meritocracy illusion holds up perfectly at this scale.
It really does. But then, the project is a success, and the company decides to scale it up.
Oh.
You scale up to a sprawling initiative involving 100 people, multiple external vendors, layers of middle management. Suddenly, your radius of visibility narrows drastically.
And in a context like this, a highly skilled worker faces the risk of becoming what the author calls the invisible specialist.
The invisible specialist.
So let's walk the listener through exactly how someone falls into this trap, because it doesn't happen overnight, right? It's like this slow, methodical descent into isolation.
It usually starts with a genuine desire to be helpful. Let's look at a hypothetical 3-year timeline. In year 1, there's a critical legacy database that keeps crashing. Nobody wants to touch it because the original developers left years ago and the documentation is just terrible.
Typical tech nightmare.
Right. So our highly skilled engineer steps up, dives into the arcane code, and stabilizes the system. They are hailed as a hero by their immediate manager.
They saved the day.
But by year 2, they become the only person who can touch that database. Whenever a new feature needs to connect to it, the routing goes through them. They are incredibly precious to the project.
They possess this deep, localized expertise that keeps a critical component running.
Exactly. But they are now confined to a tiny, dark corner of the overall architecture.
And this is where the visibility radius collapses. Only a handful of people, maybe just their immediate manager and a couple of peers who rely on that database, truly understand the depth of their knowledge or the immense value they're adding.
Yeah. To the rest of the 100-person project, they are literally just a name on a JIRA ticket.
And that's sad. And then we hit year 3.
Year 3 is where it hurts. The company undergoes a massive restructuring. A new vice president is brought in to modernize the entire tech stack. They look at the organizational chart. They see 100 engineers. They're looking for leaders to head up the new cloud migration.
And our invisible specialist is sitting in the server room, metaphorically speaking, keeping the old system alive. Does the VP even know who they are?
Not at all. The VP only sees that this person is attached to a legacy system that is slated for deprecation.
Oh, wow.
The localized value doesn't translate to the broader organization. The engineer is treated as expendable, or at best, relegated to maintenance duty, simply because their visibility radius was too small to capture the attention of the actual decision makers.
So your competence does not automatically radiate outward. You can be the load-bearing pillar of the entire operation, but if you're buried behind drywall, nobody knows you're holding the roof up until the building collapses.
Exactly. You have to build the transmission lines yourself. You have to actively break out of the silo.
Which brings us to an even more complex scenario. We've talked about being invisible internally, but what happens when you are highly visible to the wrong people? Or rather, visible in a way that creates a massive structural disconnect.
Let's unpack the bidirectional reputation trap.
This is the client versus internal disconnect. And this is a scenario that just plagues consultants, agency workers, and really anyone in a client-facing technical role. You are essentially serving two masters who do not speak to each other.
Yeah, you have the external client who is paying for the project, and you have your internal HR and management structure that actually signs your paychecks. And often, these two entities hold wildly different perceptions of your value.
So how does this play out in real life?
Let's say you're embedded with a client for 18 months, leading a major software integration. The client loves your work. You are delivering consistently. You're translating complex technical jargon into business value for their executives. The client even bypasses official channels to ask your specific opinion on future roadmaps.
So to the client, you are a principal architect. You're the trusted advisor. If they could, they would hire you directly.
Precisely. You are operating at an incredibly high leadership level. However, there is a severe risk if your internal company rank does not match this high-level external role.
A spreadsheet.
The spreadsheets. Every large tech consultancy or enterprise has official grids, formal hierarchies, and pay bands. If you are operating as a senior architect for the client, but internally, on the spreadsheet, you are still officially classified as a level 2 support engineer, you are living in the danger zone.
Because the client's perception isn't automatically synced to the HR database.
Exactly. And the author highlights the terrifying consequence of the demotion risk.
Okay, walk us through the demotion risk.
Let's say the client project successfully wraps up. You return to your home base, expecting a massive promotion and a hero's welcome. But suddenly, your company undergoes a shift in project allocation. Because your internal grid still says level 2 support, the resource managers pull you off the architect track and bump you down to a much less relevant junior role in the next project.
Wow. It's like being a beloved A-list celebrity in a foreign country. You walk the streets of Tokyo and people are asking for your autograph. They treat you like royalty.
Right.
But then you fly back to your hometown and you're just another person at the grocery store. The cashier doesn't care that you are huge in Japan.
That is the perfect analogy.
And in this analogy, your hometown is your employer, the people who actually decide your promotions, your bonuses, and your career trajectory.
It perfectly illustrates that external success does not automatically translate into internal capital. You cannot assume that because the client sent a glowing email to your boss, your internal promotion is secured and encoded into the system. The internal system only sees your official badge, not the leadership role you actually performed.
I can hear our listeners groaning right now, especially the highly technical ones, because the solution to this sounds like corporate vanity.
Oh, they hate it.
The idea of coming back from a successful project and hosting a lunch and learn to show off your own code, or writing an internal newsletter about how great you are, it just feels cringy. It feels gross.
It is a very common friction point. Technical professionals generally despise self-promotion. But we need to fundamentally reframe this. You are not bragging.
You're not.
No, you are engaging in HR disaster recovery.
Well, I love that. HR disaster recovery.
You are creating a legally binding, indisputable paper trail of your competence so that the internal system doesn't accidentally delete your career.
That is a brilliant way to look at it. You aren't being an influencer. You are literally backing up your career data.
You have to deliberately bridge the gap. You take the complex challenges you solve for the client, you sanitize them of any confidential information, and you present them to the internal knowledge base.
So you do the internal showcases.
You have to. You make sure the directors, the ones staring at the spreadsheets who have never met the client, see the undeniable documented proof of your high-level operation. You must translate the external success into the internal language of your company.
Okay, so we have the dangers of scale, we have the trap of the disconnect. Now let's explore the actual anatomy of trust itself. Because visibility isn't just a numbers game of how many people see your work, it's about the depth and context of how they see you.
Right.
And the source material offers an absolutely profound analogy here. They call it the YouTube carpenter.
This is one of the most critical psychological insights in the text. It breaks down the difference between abstract digital reach and real tangible familiarity. Let's set the stage. We're all familiar with the expert woodworker on YouTube.
Yes, the pristine shop, the perfect lighting, the incredibly soothing voiceover. They spend 20 minutes explaining the micro adjustments on a table saw or the nuances of a hand-cut dovetail joint. They show you their precise measurements, the assembly, the sanding, and crucially, they show you when they make a mistake. They show you the wood splitting, and then they show you exactly how they patch it so it's invisible.
And over time, as you consume dozens of hours of this content, a powerful psychological phenomenon occurs. You develop a parasocial relationship.
You feel like you know them.
You do. You feel deeply connected to this person's craftsmanship. You know their favorite brand of Japanese pull saws. You know their philosophy on sourcing sustainable lumber. They possess massive abstract reach, maybe 2 million subscribers, and you fundamentally trust their expertise.
But the source material introduces a brilliant twist that completely recontextualizes this trust.
Suppose you need a bespoke, custom dining table built for your home. It's a significant investment. And suppose you personally know a local carpenter in your town.
Right.
Maybe they're a friend of a friend, or just someone whose physical workshop you can actually walk into. You can physically touch the raw slabs of walnut. You can smell the sawdust in the air. You can shake their hand.
The reality is almost every single person will hire the local carpenter over the YouTuber with millions of followers. Even if the YouTuber is objectively more famous or even objectively more skilled.
And we have to ask why. Why do we make that choice?
Why do we?
It reveals that visibility is not an absolute static value. It is entirely dependent on context and the physical reality of trust. The local carpenter possesses the ultimate unassailable form of visibility, physical presence, direct, tangible, real-world trust.
Wow.
You do not need 1 million digital subscribers when the client can walk into your shop and see the sawdust on your boots.
The physical reality overrides the digital abstraction. But wait, if the local carpenter always wins, what does this mean for the YouTube carpenter? Is their digital visibility just a vanity metric? Like, is it worthless?
Far from it. The YouTuber's abstract visibility is incredibly potent, but we must precisely understand what it functions as. It is a substitute, it is a digital proxy.
A proxy for physical trust.
Exactly. We use this digital proxy when direct physical contact and real-world trust are simply unavailable. If you don't know a local carpenter, how do you decide who to trust with your money? You default to the person who has provided the most transparent, exhaustive, and verifiable digital proof of their competence.
So seeing them touch the wood on camera for 50 hours becomes the psychological bridge. It's the next best thing to touching it yourself.
That's it. And this translates directly back to our careers in the technical landscape. In a world of remote work, distributed teams, global consulting, you rarely have the luxury of being the local carpenter.
Right. Your stakeholders might sit in a different hemisphere.
The executive approving your budget might never shake your hand. You cannot have them walk into your physical workshop. Therefore, you are forced to build that digital proxy.
You have to show your work.
You have to narrate your process, document your problem solving, and yes, even highlight how you fixed your mistakes in a way that scales across the internet and the corporate intranet.
You have to broadcast the sawdust of your code. You have to leave traces of your craftsmanship in the digital space so that people who have never met you can develop that parasocial trust in your competence.
Well said.
Which leads us directly into the most volatile territory of this entire deep dive: personal visibility, the personal brand, and the hidden traps of where we build it.
We are talking about building beyond the badge. This is the reputation you cultivate outside the walled garden of your current employer. This is your presence on LinkedIn, your technical articles on Medium, your open source contributions on GitHub, your personal website.
The source highlights the massive asymmetric power of this type of visibility. Unlike internal corporate visibility, it doesn't evaporate the moment you hand in your resignation letter. It is fully portable,
Yep.
and it has a massive half-life.
Applying the physics term half-life here is incredibly accurate. It means the effort you expend today continues to yield compounding results far into the future, decaying very slowly.
Okay, give us an example.
Think about a brilliantly written foundational article you publish on deep learning architecture. That single piece of content can continue to attract opportunities, generate inbound job offers, and solidify your authority for 5, maybe 10 years after you hit publish. It is an investment that yields infinite returns.
But there is a terrifying dark side to this. We are constantly told to build our personal brand, to get out there and publish. But almost everyone is building their brand on land they do not own.
Yes.
And the source shares a deeply personal, frankly chilling cautionary tale about the Google Play Store.
This story is the ultimate illustration of platform risk. The author recounts a period early in their career where they desperately needed to prove their technical skills to the broader market. However, because they were bound by strict non-disclosure agreements, they couldn't legally share any of the intricate, highly complex architectural work they were doing for their day job.
Their internal corporate masterpiece was just invisible to the outside world. This is the curse of the enterprise developer. You build a marvel of engineering, you route millions of transactions a second, but it's a proprietary trade secret. You can't put it on a resume.
So to bypass this NDA lock-in, the author spent years, countless weekends, and late nights building an exhaustive portfolio of complex, real-world Android applications.
Just to have something to show.
Exactly. These apps were their public showcase. They were tangible, interactive proof of their ability to design, code, and deploy robust software. And they chose to host this entire portfolio on the Google Play Store. They trusted Google implicitly.
They mentioned the old motto, right?
Yes, as the author notes, they were charmed by Google's original corporate motto, "Don't be evil." They felt their digital real estate was safe.
They put all their career capital into the biggest, seemingly safest digital vault in the world.
Then the unthinkable occurred. Over a trivial, arguably non-existent image copyright dispute, their flagship application, the most complex one in the portfolio, was abruptly banned by the platform's automated moderation systems.
No warning, no human review,
Sure.
just a cold algorithmic execution.
And the devastation didn't stop there. This initial ban triggered a cascading domino effect within the platform's opaque architecture. Because of sudden, unannounced rule changes regarding things like proxy apps, combined with relentless new requirements for continuous maintenance updates that a single independent developer couldn't possibly keep up with,
Oh no.
their entire portfolio was systematically wiped out.
Years of weekend work, their entire public-facing professional identity, the only proof they had of their skills outside of an NDA, vanished into the digital ether almost overnight.
It is the ultimate nightmare scenario of being a digital tenant.
Hold on, I need to jump in here on behalf of the listener, because that story is absolutely terrifying, but it's also completely paralyzing.
It is.
If a behemoth like Google or LinkedIn or X can just wipe out your entire professional existence overnight without cause, what is the alternative? Are we supposed to abandon modern networking? Are we supposed to go back to handing out physical resumes at the local coffee shop? You have to use these massive platforms to get any kind of reach today.
You are absolutely right. You cannot avoid these platforms if you want to be discovered. The solution is not isolation. The solution is fundamentally changing your architectural relationship with them. This is the essence of mitigating platform risk.
Okay, how do we do that?
When you build your primary reputation on rented land, which is what a social media profile is, you do not own it. You can be evicted at a moment's notice with no recourse, no human customer service representative to call, and no appeal process.
You are a digital sharecropper. You work the land, but the algorithm owns the crop.
Precisely. And the source uses some very high-profile extreme examples to illustrate this purely mechanical reality. We must look at this strictly as an objective observation of platform mechanics, entirely divorced from any political, ethical, or personal context. Right. The text points to the sudden, complete bands of figures with massive global reach, specifically mentioning Donald Trump and Andrew Tate.
Viewing this entirely neutrally as a demonstration of centralized kill switches.
Exactly. These are factual instances demonstrating that the architecture of these platforms is absolute. It does not matter how famous you are. It does not matter if you are a former head of state or an internet celebrity with hundreds of millions of followers.
Yeah.
If your entire pipeline of visibility relies exclusively on third-party platforms governed by unpredictable algorithms and opaque, shifting terms of service, you can be instantly erased. Your reach can go from hundreds of millions to zero in a millisecond.
The algorithm giveth, and the algorithm taketh away. It is a terrifying display of asymmetric power. So, what is the practical takeaway for the listener? How do we protect our careers from this neutral, mechanical reality of deplatforming?
The takeaway is an absolute mandate. You must own your assets. You must establish a home base on the internet that you control completely, down to the root server level.
Think a personal website.
Yes, it means having a personal website. It means purchasing and registering a domain name that you own the rights to. It means building an email newsletter list where you physically hold the data of your subscribers.
So you still use LinkedIn and YouTube, but differently.
You use the rented land as discovery channels. You use them as outposts to gather attention and cast a wide net. But you must constantly, relentlessly funnel that attention back to the asset you actually own.
So the call to action matters.
You post a great thread on social media, but the call to action is always subscribe to my newsletter. If the social media platform disappears tomorrow or changes its algorithm so no one sees your posts, your website and your mailing list remain intact. You protect your visibility by owning the underlying infrastructure.
Own your infrastructure. That is an incredibly powerful defensive heuristic. Now, I want to explore how the rules of visibility aren't just dictated by the platform. They are heavily influenced by the specific industry you are in and the type of employment you have. Let's look at the profound nuances between being a lone freelancer versus living under a massive corporate halo.
The contrast between these two states is stark. Let's start with the independent freelancer or the boutique consultant. For them, visibility is not a luxury. It is not a career accelerator. It is an absolute existential requirement. It is life or death for their business entity.
Because if they are invisible, they starve, their pipeline dries up.
A freelancer's raw, underlying technical skill is completely useless in a vacuum. If no one knows it exists, it cannot be monetized. Without a public portfolio, without detailed case studies demonstrating past return on investment, without giving talks at industry conferences or sharing complex code snippets online, potential clients simply will not hire them.
And we have to ask why. Because hiring an independent contractor involves massive perceived uncertainty for the client.
It's an enormous risk. The client is betting their budget and their project on an unknown entity. They have no safety net, and visibility is the mechanism that violently reduces that perceived uncertainty. When a client can read your clear explanations of complex problems, when they can see a backlog of your past work, and when they can read testimonials from other recognized professionals, their anxiety drops.
It de-risks the hire.
Furthermore, high visibility directly correlates to pricing power. They aren't just paying for you to write code, they're paying for the peace of mind that comes with hiring a de-risked, recognized expert.
So for the freelancer, visibility is oxygen. Now let's contrast that with someone walking into a meeting wearing a badge from a tech giant. Let's talk about borrowed visibility.
This is what we call the corporate halo, or as the source brilliantly terms it, visibility by osmosis. Let's look at the employees working for the massive tech behemoths, the companies formerly known as FANG, now often referred to as MEMA-A. Meta, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet.
The titans of the modern economy.
When an employee from one of these companies enters a professional interaction, whether it's an external client meeting or an industry conference, they do not have to prove their baseline competence from scratch. They do not have to hustle to establish trust.
Because the badge does it for them.
Simply saying, I am a senior data engineer at Amazon, instantly, radically shifts the baseline of perception in the room.
It's a massive, immediate shortcut to trust.
The individual employee inherits the credibility, the notoriously rigorous hiring standards, and the perceived elite quality associated with that massive brand simply by wearing the lanyard. The company has spent billions of dollars and decades building that global brand visibility, and the employee gets to absorb it by osmosis. They're granted the ultimate benefit of the doubt before they even open their mouth.
But the source material also points out a very specific, almost paradoxical advantage within the broader IT and software industry itself, regardless of whether you have that MEMA-A halo or not. There is a structural weakness in the tech industry that creates a massive opportunity.
There is, and it is a massive arbitrage opportunity for anyone listening who works in a technical field. The software and IT industry is an open, completely uncrowded field when it comes to communication.
How so?
Here is the reality of the demographic. Highly competent, deeply technical people, the brilliant coders, the genius system architects, the database wizards, very rarely choose to become public communicators.
Because they prefer the code. They want to stay in the terminal. They don't want to write blog posts. They don't want to speak at conferences. And as we discussed, they often feel that self-promotion is gross.
Which creates a massive vacuum of easily accessible technical wisdom. Therefore, the technical professionals who do choose to expose their ideas, who step into the light with consistency and actual verifiable technical substance, gain a disproportionate, almost unfair competitive edge.
They stand out immediately.
Because the baseline of public communication in the technical field is so incredibly low, anyone who can articulate complex ideas clearly to a broader audience becomes highly visible, highly sought after, and vastly more employable.
You don't necessarily have to be the single best coder in the world. If you are in the top 20% of coders, but the top 1% of communicators, your career trajectory will be explosive compared to the top 1% coder who refuses to speak.
That is exactly the point.
We have covered a massive amount of ground. We've talked about the psychology of company scale, the traps of client perception, the vital importance of owning your digital infrastructure, and the specific arbitrage opportunities in the tech industry. Now it is time to bring all of these disparate threads together. It is time for the core framework.
The Euler Circles of Visibility.
I want you, the listener, to physically visualize this with us. Imagine you are standing in an empty room, and we are going to draw 3 large overlapping circles on the floor. A classic Venn diagram, or mathematically, an Euler diagram.
These 3 circles represent the 3 distinct physical domains of professional visibility. You have to learn how to navigate them, and more importantly, how to stand in the spaces where they overlap.
Let's meticulously break down the properties of each circle. Step into circle number 1, internal visibility.
Circle 1 is your visibility within your current company, your immediate employer. Let's look at its defining characteristics because they are extreme. First, it has extremely high decision density. This is arguably its most important and powerful feature.
High decision density, what does that actually mean in practice?
It means this circle is the exact physical and organizational location where the people who hold literal, immediate power over your future reside. This circle contains the middle managers who control the quarterly budgets. It contains the directors who sign off on the promotion grids. It contains the executives who decide who gets assigned to the high-profile, resume-building new initiatives.
So if you want a 20% raise tomorrow, this is the only circle that can grant it.
It is the center of power. But it's also a trap because it comes with severe, often fatal limitations.
Yes, the source mentions low portability.
The exact moment you hand in your badge, exit the building, and quit, 99% of this visibility evaporates into thin air. It does not travel with you to your next job. The hiring manager at your new company does not care that you were Employee of the Month 3 times at your old job, or that you were the hero of the internal hackathon.
Furthermore, it has a terrifyingly short half-life. Even while you remain employed at the company, if you get buried in a long-term legacy project and disappear from the internal radar for 6 to 12 months, you are largely forgotten by the decision makers. Corporate organizational memory is notoriously short.
So it's powerful but incredibly fragile.
How do you feed this circle without becoming the annoying person who just CCs everyone on every email? How do you keep it active strategically?
You feed internal visibility by ruthlessly focusing on outcomes, not just output. Writing 10,000 lines of code is an output. Designing a caching system that saves the company $1 million a year in server costs is an outcome.
You must make your outcomes legible to non-technical leadership.
You engage in cross-team initiatives, deliberately breaking out of your technical silo. You volunteer to present at internal all-hands meetings. And crucially, you engage in internal mentorship.
Mentorship builds a distributed network of allies and advocates across different departments who will speak your name when you aren't in the room.
Exactly. Okay, that is the intense localized world of Circle 1. Now let's draw a Circle 2 project and client visibility.
Circle 2 encompasses how you are perceived by the specific external client you are consulting for, or the specific isolated stakeholders of a massive internal mega project.
As we discussed earlier during the demotion risks segment, its defining characteristic is bidirectional reputation.
The client's feedback acts as a mirror that reflects back onto your internal standing, assuming you manage the translation correctly.
Exactly. Its portability is what we call partial. You cannot take the proprietary code with you to a new job. Non-disclosure agreements heavily restrict what you can publicly say about the specific architecture you built.
However, the relationships and the human references are highly portable. A vice president at a client company might move to a completely new organization 3 years from now, remember how you saved their project, and bring you along as a highly paid consultant because the trust is already established.
And what about the half-life of client trust?
It has a medium half-life. A client will remember how you saved their critical product launch for a few years, but eventually, organizational turnover at the client side, new managers coming in, old sponsors leaving, will slowly erase that institutional memory.
To feed this circle, you must focus on reliable delivery under extreme pressure. You must master clear, non-jargon communication with business stakeholders. You deliver highly targeted, visually impressive demos, and you maintain rigorous documentation like architectural decision logs, so that even if the human stakeholders change, the permanent record of your excellent choices remains behind to advocate for you.
Excellent. Now we step into the final, most expansive territory. Circle 3, personal visibility, the personal brand.
This is the circle you build entirely outside the walls of your employer and your clients. Its characteristics are the exact inverse of Circle 1. It has high control, assuming you are heeding our earlier warning and using own channels like a personal website. You are the publisher. You decide what to say and how to present your identity.
It has high portability. Your published articles, your podcast interviews, your open source GitHub repositories, these travel with you anywhere in the world, to any job, across any industry.
And it has the long half-life, the compounding interest.
Exactly. A brilliant foundational tutorial on system architecture can work for you, attracting recruiters and potential clients while you sleep for 5 to 10 years.
However, as we exhaustively noted, it carries high platform risk if you are overly reliant on social media algorithms. To feed Circle 3, you must produce substantive, recurring content. Not corporate fluff, not generic platitudes, but real, hard-earned technical insights.
You build your own assets, like a newsletter, and you maintain an active, genuinely helpful presence in broader industry communities, like open source projects or professional forums.
Okay, so we have the 3 circles drawn on the floor: internal, project, and personal. But the real strategic magic of an Euler diagram is always in the overlap. It's about what happens when you stand in the intersections.
Let's explore those sweet spots. What happens when you successfully combine internal visibility and project visibility?
When you stand in that specific overlap, meaning you're delivering massive, undeniable value to the external client, A and D, you are effectively strategically translating that success back to your internal management. The result is explosive career acceleration.
You gain strong, highly motivated internal sponsors.
The executives realize that you are not just a competent worker, but a crucial revenue-protecting asset for retaining key clients. You become the go-to person for the highest stakes engagements. You become structurally indispensable.
You've weaponized your external success for internal gain. Okay, what about the intersection of project visibility and personal visibility? How do those combine?
This is a fantastic overlap for long-term compounding growth. This is where you take the complex, grueling challenges you solved on a client project, heavily sanitized, of course, to respect NDAs and strip out any confidential data, and you translate the core lessons into publishable case studies, blog posts, or conference talks.
You are turning the sweat of your day job into fuel for your lifelong personal brand. You are extracting public, portable value from private, lockdown work.
That is the definition of working smart. You get paid to solve the problem, and then you get paid in reputation for explaining how you solved it.
And finally, the overlap between personal visibility and internal visibility. How does my external personal brand help me inside the walls of my own company?
This overlap creates a phenomenon that HR departments call employer branding. If you have a strong personal brand, if you are known in the broader industry as a thought leader or a brilliant open source contributor, your mere presence at your current company makes the company look better to the outside world.
Ah, the corporate halo works in reverse. You become the halo.
Precisely. Your personal brand helps the company attract top-tier talent, because other great engineers see your articles and think, I want to work at the company where that person works.
Yeah.
In return, a smart company will actively amplify you.
They will sponsor your conference trips, feature you in their corporate marketing materials, and grant you immense internal prestige because you are a public asset to their recruitment pipeline. It is a highly symbiotic, highly profitable relationship.
This framework is brilliant because it takes something incredibly nebulous and anxiety-inducing like networking or building a brand and turns it into a concrete, strategic map. You could literally see where you are standing.
So let's bring it all home for the listener. I want to ask you for the absolute bottom line practical heuristics. Based on this Euler framework, what should the listener do tomorrow morning when they log into work based on their current career stage? Let's look at two specific diverging scenarios.
Okay, let's do it.
Scenario A, the listener is happy where they are. They like the company, they like the benefits, they want to stay for the foreseeable future and climb the internal ranks.
If you are in scenario A, your strategic imperative is clear. You must invest heavily, almost disproportionately, in internal and project visibility. You need to secure your upcoming promotions, maximize your annual bonuses, and cultivate powerful internal executive sponsors.
Your daily focus should be on delivering undeniable, measurable outcomes for your clients and ensuring your internal leadership is keenly, unavoidably aware of those outcomes through showcases and internal documentation.
So in this scenario, they shouldn't be agonizing over their personal blog or their Twitter follower account.
They should use personal visibility, but in a very specific, secondary, low-stress way. Use it simply to crystallize and document your lessons learned. Write an article every few months just to clarify your own thinking and maintain a baseline, discoverable digital presence.
But do not let it distract you from the high decision density area of your internal network, which is where your immediate financial rewards will come from.
That makes perfect strategic sense. Protect the core.
Okay, let's flip it. Scenario B. The listener is restless, they are hitting a ceiling, they are underpaid, or they are simply bored. They're planning to leave, pivot, or change jobs in the next 12 to 18 months.
If you are in scenario B, you must immediately, aggressively pivot your energy investment. You need to dial up your personal visibility to the absolute maximum because that is the only visibility that is portable. That is the beacon that will attract external recruiters, new clients, and competing job offers.
You start publishing more frequently, you network aggressively outside the company walls, you speak up in public forums, and you actively build your digital proxy.
And what about their current job? Do they just coast? Do they quiet quit?
Absolutely not. Concurrently, you must fiercely secure strong project references. You finish your current deliverables flawlessly so that the external client and your immediate trusted peers will emphatically vouch for you when you need references. However, regarding internal visibility, the broad corporate politics, the cross-departmental task forces, the internal committees, you drastically scale that back.
Yeah.
You keep just enough internal alignment so that you don't burn bridges with future potential sponsors. But you immediately stop investing heavy emotional and temporal labor into an internal system you are actively preparing to abandon.
It is about ruthlessly reallocating your career capital to the circles where it will serve your specific timeline best. But regardless of whether you are in scenario A or scenario B, there is one universal, non-negotiable rule we can extract from this entire deep dive.
Yes, the universal rule is this. Regardless of your path, regardless of your industry, regardless of whether you are a freelancer or a corporate lifer, you must build and maintain at least one owned asset.
A personal website, a domain name with your actual name on it, an email newsletter list.
Exactly. You must secure a piece of digital real estate that is fundamentally immune to platform risk, algorithmic whims, shadow bans, and corporate NDAs. This owned asset acts as the long-term secure vault for your professional identity. It is the only structural way to allow your visibility to truly accumulate compound interest over the span of a decades-long career.
We have covered a vast architectural landscape today. We started by dismantling the comforting illusion that good work just naturally, magically gets recognized in a pure meritocracy. We've seen how the sheer scale of modern companies tricks our savannah brains, how external success doesn't always equal internal promotion, and how the massive digital platforms we rely on can vanish our reputations in an algorithmic instant.
We've mapped out the territory, we've defined the boundaries of the circles.
And that leads us to a final provocative thought for you to take away today. Because we so often mistake visibility for just making noise. We think it's about bragging, or posting aggressively, or being the loudest, most dominant voice in the Zoom meeting.
But true. Strategic visibility isn't about being loud. It is about being legible. It is about taking your complex, abstract, deeply technical value and translating it so it is easily readable to the specific people who hold the keys to your future.
So here is the question for you to mull over as you close this out. Look at your own career right now, today. Which of the three Euler circles are you currently overinvesting your limited energy in? And more importantly, which one is completely starving? Are you an invisible specialist trapped in the server room of a massive project hoping someone notices your perfect code? Or are you a digital superstar building your entire future on the rented, volatile land of a social media algorithm?
It is ultimately about knowing exactly where you stand so you can consciously decide where to build next.
The architecture of your career is entirely in your hands. Thank you for joining us on this exploration. Click on the linked topic. We think you will like it. Applying these framework, questioning these deeply ingrained systems, and building your own robust infrastructure that is the true path of the learner. We'll see you next time.